It is 12:30 in the morning. You have 27 browser tabs open, 3 two-hour podcasts saved for later, and 4 unfinished books resting on your desk. You feel tired, but also strangely satisfied, because your brain whispers that you were working hard on yourself. You tell yourself that tomorrow morning, everything changes. Then, tomorrow comes, and before you do a single minute of real work, you open YouTube to watch one more video on how to stay disciplined. For 3 straight years, I lived inside this exact loop. I thought I had a discipline problem. I did not. I had an information problem. This is the simple subtraction rule that ended my content trap, and why stopping 90% of your self-improvement intake might be the only way to finally build the life you actually want. Let's talk about what actually happens when you watch a great video or read a productivity book. The moment an author explains a brilliant morning routine, something fascinating happens in your brain. You get a warm rush of clarity. You see the solution clearly, and your brain registers that feeling as progress. Psychologists call this the illusion of competence. When you consume high-quality advice, your brain borrows the feeling of achievement from the person teaching it. You feel as though you have run the marathon simply because you studied the map. Imagine a man who decides to build a stone cottage. On Monday, he buys 10 heavy bricks and sets them in his yard. On Tuesday, instead of laying cement, he buys 20 more bricks. By Friday, his yard is buried under 500 bricks. He cannot even walk out his front door. He's exhausted, stressed, and overwhelmed, yet he still doesn't have a roof over his head. That is what most of us are doing with self-improvement content. Every podcast, newsletter, and highlight is another brick dropped into your mind. Collecting bricks feels like construction, until you realize you haven't laid a single one. Here's the part nobody talks about. Information is not weightless. Every piece of advice you consume creates an invisible open loop in your mind. Think about your phone when you have 40 apps running in the background. You aren't using them, you can't see them, yet the battery drains twice as fast and the screen runs hot to the touch. Your mind works the exact same way. When you read 3 different methods for time management in 1 week, your subconscious tries to remember all 3 at the same time. One creator says to wake up at 5 in the morning. Another creator says sleep is sacred and you should work at night. A third creator says time blocking is dead and you should only use a simple checklist. Now, on Monday morning, when you sit down to write, code, or study, you aren't just facing the work. You are facing a committee of 50 competing gurus screaming in your ear. That heavy resistance you feel when starting a project isn't laziness. It is decision fatigue created by unapplied noise. You don't need another system to organize your work. You need to silence the noise so you can actually do it. Months ago, I made a radical decision. I put myself on a strict 30-day self-improvement diet. No productivity podcasts, no business books, no saved bookmark folders. Instead, I adopted one simple boundary. I call it the 1 in, 1 out rule. The rule is very simple. You are only allowed to consume one new idea if you have actively tested the last idea in real life. Here's how it works across 3 practical steps. First, the 24-hour implementation gate. If you watch a video or read a chapter that sparks a genuine insight, you have 24 hours to apply it to a real project. If you don't use it within 1 day, you discard it completely. No bookmarking, no saving to a digital graveyard folder. If it doesn't serve you right now, it is just clutter. Second, just-in-time learning, not just-in-case learning. Most people collect information for problems they might have 5 years from now. They read about scaling a business before they've even made their first dollar. Shift your posture completely. Treat content like a hardware store. You don't go to the hardware store on a Tuesday afternoon just to wander around buying pipes you don't need. You only go when a specific pipe under your sink is actively leaking. Learn only what you need to solve the obstacle directly in front of you today. Third, the 1-to-3 creation ratio. For every 1 hour you spend consuming ideas from others, you must spend 3 hours building, writing, practicing, or creating. If you consume 30 minutes of audio in the morning, you owe yourself 90 minutes of focused execution. The moment you enforce this ratio, something miraculous happens. You stop mindlessly scrolling through feeds because every minute of input requires real work on the other side. Now, you might be wondering, won't I fall behind if I stop reading the latest books and keeping up with every trend? I had that exact fear. We live in a culture that treats ignorance as a sin and consumption as a virtue. We assume the person with the most notes is winning. But look around you. The most effective writers spend their mornings writing, not reading articles on how to write. The best programmers spend their days debugging code, not hoarding tutorials. The people building meaningful things are not smarter than you. They simply have fewer open tabs in their minds. When you clear 90% of the noise, here's what your days look like. On day 7, the anxious urge to check feeds begins to fade. On day 14, your natural curiosity returns because your brain finally has room to think its own thoughts. And by day 30, you sit down at your desk and the heavy friction is gone. You don't need 30 minutes of hype music and 3 checklists to get started. You just begin. You do not need another habit tracker. You do not need another 20-minute breakdown of a billionaire's morning routine. You already know enough to take the next meaningful step in your life. You are not a collector of good ideas. You are the person who has to live them. If you want to feel that lightness tonight, try one small experiment before you sleep. Go to your browser right now. Do not organize your tabs. Do not save them to a reading list. Just close all of them. Close every single one. Let the world keep rushing past. Tomorrow morning, wake up, open a blank page, and work on your one most important task in total silence. Once you clear away the digital noise, however, a new challenge appears. How do you sit in front of that blank page for 90 uninterrupted minutes without your mind drifting? In the next video on screen, we break down the exact physical room setup and mental trigger that makes deep focus effortless on day 1. Click right here, and I'll see you in a few seconds.